Checkity, check, 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 check. Okay, so today is a bit of another recap day, and let it never be said that I ever claimed not to change my mind a lot. And in the process of stepping through the workflow, I seem to change my mind quite a lot, actually. Well, the latest example of that is this business of creating sub-X sheets for each of these fairly complex, let's say, cells or shots that are contained in this tunes scene. The overall workflow concept has it's worked pretty well, but the problem is that once you have a quadzillion clones going on, okay, of your, and I'm going to turn this off just so it doesn't cloud things. It was getting really cumbersome to create clones of all these like this might be a shot. Okay, so this shot consists of just one pose, if you will. So what I was doing is cloning these cells, turning them into a sub-X sheet, and then doing the animation work in there. So as I go into these sub-X sheets, you know, that works out really well, and I kind of covered some of the workings of the scenes themselves yesterday. But here's the thing I realized. When I actually, as much as I like to extol the virtues of a procedural workflow, there are points in the production process where it just makes sense to bake. What does that mean? Well, there's a couple aspects to it. Number one, I'm going to pull this up in Krita. One thing that I've realized about myself as an animator is this is when I'm having fun. Okay? When I'm not, I don't use onion skins much, but when I'm drawing, when I'm actually, you know, kind of figuring out the spacing and the timing. So this process right here is when I both have the most fun and when I seem to do the best work. Everything's loose, everything's spontaneous, and you know, that's how this whole animatic, if you will, came together. Well, another aspect of the workflow that I've found with myself is that I like to stay as close to a single level as possible. So in other words, if I was going to say, let's say I was going to animate this with a head turn, you know, a little cock of the head while she's talking or something like that. Well, the way I would want to do that is just select her head. I would just want to cut out the piece that I need and then just turn it, make a new keyframe, and then, you know, just use the paint tools to quickly paint in the gap that you've created. You know, it only takes seconds to patch that sort of thing. Now, I said in my video yesterday that it's really become evident that if your tweens are not like that, if your tweens do not consist of simple cutting and pasting and maybe using the animate tool to translate things or rotate or scale them, that sort of business, if there's actual drawing required, you want to get that in there at the pencil test stage. As much as possible, you want the pencil test to be complete in the sense of the motion that's going to occur, the drawings that need to be drawn. So this process of creating these sub-X sheets was, number one, it was creating a folder full of a zillion, every single time I created the well, every time I cloned these cells, OpenTunes, even though I'm just using those specific cells, what OpenTunes would do is create a clone of the entire level, all of the levels. So I've got 853 trillion clones all piled up in the folder. So that, that's not the end of the world, but it definitely makes things a little cumbersome when you're looking for the correct file, especially when, if you go into the subx sheet, you find out that this is pointing to clone underscore, 36 or something. It's really hard to map what I'm seeing here and what is on the hard drive. Again, not the end of the world, but it puts some distance between me and my assets such that it's harder to be able to quickly deal with some of the things that you might just have to deal with. So anyway, what I figured out was this. I said, well, wait a second. What if I definitely want my shadows and my ink and paint to be baked together. Okay. I want the background to be separate. So what I did was I just took the levels that I wanted, such as ink and paint and shadows, turn these other levels off. I actually turned them off here so they don't render. But what I did was I rendered out the entire animatic as a baked ink paint shadows layer and as a baked backgrounds layer. Okay? And then I brought that into a new scene, entirely new scene. And I'm going to discard those changes, called The Battle Baked. So now what I have is I have the entire animatic, the background is separate, and the dialogue is separate. Okay? And then to do whatever I need to do, all I have to do is grab these cells, drag them over yonder, and turn them into a subx sheet. I'm not even bothering to clone them. And the reason I'm not bothering to clone them is when I go into the subx sheet, anything new that I'm going to add, I guess I will say this. If I were to, let's say, and by the way, I just made a subx sheet of a empty set of columns, or there's nothing in those cells. But if I introduce, say, here, let's use that as an example. So I say, okay, let's grab these, let's pull them out of here, crunch them down into a subx sheet. We don't need those cells, obviously. Go down into it. Okay, so now the question becomes, let's just say I'm going to do like I said earlier, put in a cock of the head. Well, okay, what I would do is I would hit the D key here. And now remember, because I baked these down and rendered them, these are not Toons raster levels anymore. These are plain old raster levels. Okay. So now I would go like this. Doesn't really need to be perfectly perfect. But whoops. Okay, that sucked. It's the classic make one tiny mistake in terms of where you click and yeah. And what's happening here is, for whatever reason, OpenTunes wasn't wanting to let me rotate. Okay, so now because it is a raster level, how are you going to fix this? Well, there's a couple ways. First of all, grab this, maybe stretch it down. Okay. And maybe even drag it up. Okay. Now we just need a brush. Let's just choose a garden variety brush. Alright, and I'm just going to sample here. Yeah, that brush is definitely the wrong brush to be using right now. So let's just pause here. Let's try this one. That's better. Okay, so this is how that tweening would be handled. Something like this. Now with a regular raster level, you do not have the ability, unfortunately, to use fill tools. But see, the thing is, the reason this still works for me is if I really was going to put in more tweens, I'd just go to a new level and make it a tunes raster level so that I could go ahead and do fills and whatever it is I need to do. So, but for this particular example, I'm just gonna here's what the problem was. Everything was set too small. I'm just gonna sample the colors and just brush them in there. That was a bit of a mistake. So, I mean, the point is that it's really quite quick to go in and start to expand the animation. Oh, brother, eBay is sending me garbage. Okay, see, so that worked fine. It looks good, blah, 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 blah. So this is the strategy I decided to employ because creating the sub-X sheets was way, 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 way faster and less clunky. And so let's look at a couple examples here. So I added a level for her eyebrows. I added a level for her mouth, like so. No problem. Here, turn the background back on. I added some anime effects and her mouth, lip sync. And so now when we cut it into the show, I'm quite happy with the way things are looking, frankly. Let's have a peeky poo. So this is the new stuff here. So there we go. I mean, it basically feels about right to me. And the clunk factor is much lessened. So I'm going to keep doing this. Now in this case, frankly, this shot does not needs no animation. So what I'll do is I'll just go preview this, boom, and then I'll hit Control R, and sorry about that, we need to make sure that the dialogue is that the eyeball is turned off so it doesn't so that it does not render is what I'm trying to say. Okay, 00. So this is going to be 0040.tif, just saving it as a single TIFF file. And then you can't see this, but when I go into Faststone Image Viewer, there's my new TIFF file. I just drag it in here, and then I can stretch this out as long as I need. Generally kind of going like that. Duplicate the subtitle, and I believe the line here is, "My boss wished to speak with you." Okay, I'm going to double check. I'm not actually 100% sure that that was the dialogue. Oops. Wishes to see you. My boss wishes to see you. Okay. Wishes to see you. Alright. And actually, I think by convention we sort of decided that if it's a standalone bit of dialogue that doesn't need any punctuation for emotional reasons like this, question mark, blah, blah, blah. If it's just a straight statement, we capitalize the beginning of it, but we don't put periods on it for subtitles. So, save, and on to the next shot. Okay, so this, I believe, is a... Alright, so what we'll do is, same thing again, we're just going to drag these over here. Sorry. Actually, you know what? This one, see what's kind of interesting about this is this could be dragged over here. Well, you know, never mind. I was going to explode it and put it back, but I forgot I actually did put animation in there. So what I'm going to do is just drag this level over here just to get it out of the way. Okay, so then we take these three and boom, turn them into a sub X sheet. You don't really have to do this right here, delete all those extra frames, but I tend to like to keep things a little cleaner. Get on in here, and now let's turn off the background so we can see what the dialogue is. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go set the start marker, and let's just do the timing this way. Then why wasn't he climbing through my window instead of two noisy amateurs? Okay. Well, that's probably pretty close. Now I'm going to be anal and actually take it to the bottom of the set of 6 frames, which is obviously completely idiotic and makes no sense. But that's okay, because it's my project. 110. So... okay. So now in this case, her eyebrows are baked in. Her eyebrows are baked into the drawing, so I'm not going to mess with the... they'd be easy to erase, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just check this. Okay. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plastic tool this one. Alright, just because seems like this is one of those cases where secondary animation would be handled very well by the plastic tool. So I'm just going to do that. I should have actually done the lip sync first, because I'm going to have to patch the lip sync, the mouth level, through the plastic tool as well. But that's okay. We can go ahead and just let's just do a quick and dirty skeleton here. And so what I really want to do is basically be able to turn her head a bit. So I'm going to put plenty of bones there and not much there. And then let's just see if this is... Look at the way her breast rises up when she turns her head. Oh, didn't see that coming. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a little adjustment here to make this a little more controllable. So I'm going to turn off keep distance, take that down and stretch that like that. Now I'm going to turn keep distance back on, and okay, so I'm going to hit play. Okay, right there. Okay, I think that's probably going to be pretty close. Okay, that's obviously stupid as can be. I really want constant interpolation, but let's just fix it this way. Basically, I want it on 2s. So I'm going to Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, and that one we'll make it rightly tightly. Okay, so now we gained a few extra frames here as we were clunking along, so I'm just going to go ahead and take a couple extra frames out so that the ballpark timing is still going to be about correct. So he climbed through step 2. Okay. Okay, I don't like this. And I definitely don't like this. Oh, for crying out loud. Well, this is yet another example of where constant interpolation would be extremely desirable, which, by the way, I do have the newest version of OpenTunes on my machine. I'm not using it right now, but it looks, I was told that constant interpolation as a default can be used now, so that's fine. Just a little head turn kind of thing going on. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to unhook this from the plastic tool. So it's all just one pose, and I'm going to click here and hit insert, and then this is going to be the mouse. So hit the B key, creates a level. I've been using this for my brush. The color's right about there. So this needs to be 0. Let's see how we're doing on time. 1:15, okay. So this is how I do lip sync. And I'm not saying I'm great at it, because I'm not. I'm just feeling the timing. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm trying to feel what the appropriate timing would be. So what I want to learn to do, actually, I know this sounds kind of goofy in a way, but what I want to do is learn to take my marker, or my stylus, and scroll it down the page at roughly 24 frames a second. Okay, and that should be an easy thing to practice. Okay, hold on. So what I need to do is go boom. Okay, boom. Boom. Okay. Because if I can get good at that, it'll make lip sync easy, because then I can go. So right now I can see that this needed to be right about here. Okay, let's check. Yeah. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the previous. Okay, right about here, we need a okay, boom, boom. Let's make this something like that. Okay, so she says, then why wasn't he climbing through my window? Okay. So right there is probably going to be Okay, and this is, I'm going to adhere to sort of anime convention here, which I've noticed by studying a number of anime that when somebody's ranting, actually a lot of times when they're just talking at all, what they do is they have a closed mouth shape and then they've got an open and a more open. And so then when the person starts talking, what you actually see is, okay, so they're not doing proper lip sync, you know, traditional animation lip sync. Who can blame them? I mean, it's a cost consideration, I'm sure. Okay. Okay, I'm not really happy with that. Okay, so we need to lose these. And basically these are not close enough together. So I need to really figure out the timing on this. I'm gonna say maybe if it's on 3s it'll just look good. And if it does, then what I'll do is just delete the extra. That's not 3s, that's 4s, you silly, silly, silly guy. Okay, let me see what that looks like. Okay, okay, what's the problem here? Right there. This drawing belongs out. Okay, so this should be 50. Okay, let's see. Okay, not bad. Right there. This one needs to be 63. Whoops. Okay. Alright, so one thing I'm seeing, this is one notch too late. Okay, and it needs to be held longer. And this actually should be the less, or the more open shape. Okay, and this, oh, we have a little problem here, which is we need a new, that last stroke wasn't nice. Alright, and so this is going to be 38. 1, 2, 38, 1, 2, 38, 1, 2. Okay, and right here we want to time this right here. So it's got to go through to 127, so that's fine. 38, 38, 38, 38, 38, 38. So I'm seeing that this lip sync stuff seems to be nice on 3s. Okay, let's stretch this out to the bottom of the scene, and then normally when I have this rippling problem, what I do is I go delete a cell, and then delete the block. And that seems to do the trick. So now we want to set a stop marker, and let's see what we have. Why wasn't he climbing through my window? Why wasn't he climbing through my window? Okay. Okay, basically what's going on here, this is actually really hard for me to, my temptation is to be more traditional and to be more accurate than I actually should be, and I have to constantly make myself not do that. What we need to do here is just take this out and stretch this up. This needs to be a rant. Okay, so, whoops, we really don't want that. We just want to grab that cell. Okay, so let's try this again. Then why wasn't he climbing through my window instead of two lousy amateurs? Yeah, see, that kind of works. Now, we can feed this back through the through the plastic tool, and this through the plastic tool as well. That's interesting. Let me see here. Okay, so that's fine. Just needs an offset. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plastic tool and slide that down just a little bit. Okay. Now it looks to me like what happened here was I fed the wrong level through the plastic tool. Column 2 is Akari. Column 1 is my doggone background. So there we go. That's making a little more sense. So we should be able to turn the background on and turn the dialogue won't render. So at this point, we should be able to go something like that. And the only thing that I'm kind of objecting to right now is I think her whole mouth, I have a tendency to draw her mouth lower than it should be, mainly because I actually like the way it looks better. However, that's not quite the character. That's really more the character. Yeah, there you go. There's your shot. It looks good. Alright, so now we've got our full range from 38 to 157. Let's just hit Control R. And we're going to save this in the render folder as I believe 0041. Yeah. But this is not going to be a TIFF sequence. This is going to be an MP4. See, I mentioned changing my mind. I was converting my MP4s to MJPEGs, but with a batch file that used FFmpeg. It's really fast, really effective, but if you don't need the performance, why do the conversion and have another compression step? Another, you're compressing an already compressed signal. Turns out the playback at 1280 by 720 in Blender is actually really good, 24 frames a second, so there was really no reason to convert these guys to MJPEGs after all. So here we go. Now we got this shot, pulling this in, right there. There it is. Here's the dialogue. Let's duplicate that strip. And what did we say the dialogue was? Well, let's turn off the background. Then why wasn't he climbing through my window? Okay. Then why wasn't he climbing through my window instead of two noisy amateurs? How embarrassing. Wasn't sure at the moment there if I was spelling amateur right. Okay, stop. So that's got to come back to there. This is a fairly dense shot, so we want to make sure we line it up tightly. Okay, so okay. So what we can do here, actually, is what if her dialogue overlaps? Yes, I like that. Okay. And then I felt like maybe this shot goes too long. And obviously we've spelled the word destroy wrong. I will say it's hard to see the the text in the editor is really hard to see. Yeah, right there. Why is that dragging out so long? Well, it looks to me like I actually extended it for no good reason. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the box select to grab these. Okay, I guess only stuff that's surrounded gets grabbed, which is good because it means I can't erroneously grab this clip that's being used as an overlay. So we'll go X and okay, yeah, we didn't really need to extend this one either. And I honestly, I don't know if I really need the... Yeah, good. Save. And that's it for now.